You know, it was supposed to be a normal day. And then Jesus stopped by. Do you ever have anybody like that who just popped in on you and you weren't ready for him? You know, it says Jesus and his companions, his disciples were traveling through and they stopped by. And Jesus came to their house. Now, I've never had Jesus come to my house in person. Of course, he always lives there, right? But let me tell you a story about one time where my wife and I caught a surprise about a visitor we weren't expecting. It was a Wednesday afternoon, and some folks came to see us, and we sat down, and they wanted to use the Salvation Army building where we were at the time, the Camden Croc Center, as a place for a very important guest to come make a speech. And we said, sure, that'd be wonderful. Who is it? The President of the United States. What? Excuse me? The President of who? The President of the United States. The President's going to come to our Salvation Army? Yes, if you'd like to have him come. Why, sure. What, is this a month or two from now? No, next Monday. 4 days from now. And we're like, are you kidding me? Well, what do we do? They said, well, we'll take care of all the preparations. And we talked and we put all the details together. And boy, there were a lot of details. And you can imagine, just a lot of people descended upon us there in Camden, New Jersey, as the president, as they were making preparations for the president to come. And all of us on the staff, we were given assignments too. We had to make sure that the people who got tickets, and on the day of the event, we had to make sure that people who weren't supposed to be there, were not supposed to be there. We sent them away, and people who were supposed to be there would get in the right seats. We had people who were ushers, people who were helping park cars, and all of our staff, they were all so busy, and I was so proud of them as we were preparing for the president to come to the Salvation Army and make a speech. One thing, though, we were a little bit worried that we would be so busy with our activities that we wouldn't actually get in the room to where the president was speaking. And so we made sure that when we talked with the folks that we wouldn't be working so hard at the event that we didn't get to enjoy the event when it happened. And so sure enough, the day came and the president came, President Obama, and he came to our Croc Center and he spoke, and all of our staff got to get in the room to hear him speak. So it was a good day, and it was a lot of fun, but I never want to go through something like that again. To have that kind of pressure put on you that the president was coming to our building. But can you imagine Jesus in human form calling you up and saying, I'm coming to dinner? That happened quite a bit in Scripture, didn't it? Happened with Zacchaeus. He ran into the woman at the well. He just showed up at people's houses. And here, as he was passing through this little village of Bethany, he shows up at the house of his friends, Mary and Martha, and of course Lazarus. He was friends with them. We know this from Scripture. And in this short story that's here at the end of chapter 10, we see a little peek behind the lives of Mary and Martha and Jesus and their interaction. And hopefully today will be a lesson for us to learn a little bit more about Jesus. The story begins when Jesus shows up at their house as he was traveling. It was just a normal day. And predictably, there were things that needed to be done when guests would arrive. Food had to be made. Rooms had to be set up. Were all the beds made? Is all the trash taken out? Was the house clean, for goodness sake? But as they came, it would have been normal for the women of the house to do this work if there was no domestic help. And they were poor, so they didn't have anybody to help them. So, of course, in that day, in that age, the women would be there and the men would move somewhere else to conduct business. Well, Martha was trying to be a good hostess. She was busy preparing food, serving food, cleaning up. Can you picture it? There's Martha with her apron on and a hand towel, and she's out making food over here, and she's got dishes. And all of a sudden, she realized she's doing this by herself. Now, the men were in the kitchen, in the dining room. They were relaxing at the table. Jesus and his disciples were there talking. Perhaps they had some food in front of them. But what was wrong with this picture? Mary was there at the feet of Jesus. They say, wait a minute, Major, what do you mean, what's wrong with this picture? And that day, something was wrong with that picture. For you see, Mary, probably according to Martha, shouldn't have been there. Jesus was talking to the disciples. Was he teaching? Was he preaching? Was he telling stories along the way? Were they just interacting as people? We don't really know what the content is. But Mary was at Jesus' feet. She felt it natural to be there. Well, then Martha noticed. She noticed Mary was not helping. She noticed Mary was at the feet of Jesus, listening to him. Listening to him in a place where she shouldn't have been, so she thought. She thought that Mary should have gotten up from her spot and come over and helped Martha do whatever Martha needed to do. She immediately felt slighted that Mary was not helping her. And then something interesting occurred in the story. Look at this. Now, if that was my sister, I have 3 sisters, so I know how to speak to a sister. If that was my sister, I would have said to my sister, hey, come help me. You need to get up and come over and help me. But look at the Bible. That's not what happened. Instead of complaining to Mary, or instead of calling attention to what was happening to Mary, what did she do? She said to Jesus, Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do all the work by myself? Don't you care about me that my sister's left me to do all the work? She said it to Jesus. Now, I don't know the root of this word. I don't really know where it comes from. But I've often said to say something like that takes some chutzpah. And, I mean, you have to have some fortitude to say to Jesus, the guest in your home, the creator of the world, don't you care about me? That my sister is leaving me to do all this work? And so there's the conflict. What to do? You know, I find sometimes that I complain too. Anybody else complain about things? And often it's revealed to me when I complain to the Lord that it's probably because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing at that moment. And it's not about me. Excuse me, it's not about God. It's about me. And so, what was the situation? Look in your Bible again. Jesus' response to her. Martha, Martha. Says the name twice. Have you ever said that to somebody? Now, Major. Or in that famous sitcom, Brady Bunch, very close, Jan said what? Marsha. But Jesus here said, Martha, Martha. Can't you hear it in his voice? Can't you look at him like, tisk, tisk. Come on, Martha. Get with the program. Come on, this is not what you should be worrying about here. Look what he says next. You are worried and upset about many things. He's telling her, it's not that you're doing the wrong things. You're worried that Mary isn't doing the right thing in your own mind. Jesus didn't scold Mary for what she was doing. And you know what? Neither did Jesus scold Martha for what she was doing. Jesus chided Martha because she was worried about what her sister was not doing. And even so, he did it with care and gentleness. He says to Martha, look at the words right there. Mary has chosen to do the right thing. He was telling us this, that there's a good choice, but there's also a better choice to be made. Martha, you were doing what you had to do, what needed to be done, but don't take this out on your sister. She did a better thing. She did a better thing. Mary chose a better way because she sat and worshiped at the feet of Jesus. She was listening to what he had to say. Martha was doing some very valuable service here. important things to be done. But Martha learned here about the presence of God and about the presence of Jesus. Jesus is saying to her, I'm here now. And Mary has chosen to be with me. She chose a better way. A place where the Cains love to go on vacation is Gatlinburg, Tennessee. And when we go on vacation there, we usually go in the fall. They have a place in the convention center where they have all the artisans set up, and they show all of their different things they have to sell and the beautiful things that they've made. But we also like to go out into this one section. They call it the Artisan Loop. And it's about a 15-mile loop that goes around the mountain. And there's all these different places of painters and potters and people who make things out of wood and steel and just beautiful creations. And one of our favorite places to go to is a place called All Wine Pottery. And it doesn't look like much. It's an old, beat-up wooden structure and with a big, long porch. And they have a little gazebo out front, and sometimes there's even some musicians playing out there. But it's just a nice place that you would expect to see in the mountains. But inside that building, they make some of the most beautiful pottery you've ever seen in your life. And whenever we go, we usually like to buy a couple. I brought a couple samples with me here. One of their signature things they like to do is to take leaves and put it on the coffee mugs or on the plates or on the bowls. And this stuff it's really beautiful. I bought this mug 2007, All Wine Pottery 2007. And I could very easily take this mug and set it on a shelf in my house. And people would come visit and say, that's a beautiful piece of artwork. Where did you get it? And I could tell them the story that I just told you about this little place in Gatlinburg, Tennessee. But you know what? I drink coffee out of this coffee mug. This is one of two that I use every morning. I don't drink two coffee every morning, but while one is in the dishwasher, the other one's being used, and this is one of the ones. This is my wife's that she picked up a few years after that. But it could be artwork, but it's used to drink coffee. One day when we were visiting the potters, I was thinking about that dilemma. Is it artwork or is it practical usage? And I asked the potter what they preferred, and the potter said this: use it for what it was made for. Well, I took that to mean drink coffee out of it. He could have meant it's artwork, put it on a shelf. But you know, it's interesting that when coffee's available, I want to use a coffee mug for coffee. It can look like beautiful art the rest of the time. But when coffee's available, I want to put coffee in it. I want to use it. You know, we were made to worship. We were made to worship God. We also serve other people. Worship is to show Christ to yourself. And service is to show Christ to others. This coffee mug could do a long time just sitting on a shelf, just looking like art. But it was made for coffee, for daily use. You know, we could think that we are made to serve people and serve others, and especially on this day where we want to celebrate the service of our local officers, the service of our lay people. We could think that that's what we're here for, to serve others. No, that's the bonus. That's what we get to do. That's the artwork in ourselves. That's the plus. We were made to worship God. We were made to come before Him and reveal ourselves to Him as He reveals Himself to us. Just like this coffee cup was made for coffee, we are made to serve the Lord. Both are good choices to do. There's a good way, and there was a better way. That was the message to Mary and Martha. Sometimes people preach on this passage and they talk about, are you a Mary? Are you a Martha? I think I'm both. How about you?
Amen.
Because I choose to worship Christ all the time. I choose to serve others as he leads me. Both are good choices. We worship and we serve. And God has enabled us this blessing in our lives. And through this little story here in the Bible to remind us that there is a better way. There's always a better way. We cannot serve without worshiping. We must worship first and allow our service to flow through and into all others whom we serve. You know what? Jesus is here right now. We could be up and doing things for God, but he's here right now. And in the presence of Jesus, we need to worship today. I invite you just to bow your heads and close your eyes. Just allow God just now to come to us and to speak to our hearts. And to say, Lord, have your way with me.